Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. We're returning to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, and I would say that this brewery are best known for their kind of hazy New England IPAs, their fruit IPAs as well, and also for their kind of big juicy fruity sours in recent times. But I've had a couple of good Imperial Stouts actually over the last little while from them as well, so do make sure you have a go at some of these styles from this brewery. But yeah, for this one then we are going to head a little bit north of me here in Lund to Helsingborg, a lovely city that I do recommend you visit, and we're going to have a look at yet another beer from Brewski Mikrobryggeri. So this particular beer is called the Doga Ipa. It comes in at 6% ABV and it's a New England hazy style IPA, this one. So this beer was released here in Sweden as part of the Lokal och Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget for July of 2021, and yeah, it's been a little while actually since I've had an IPA from Brewski, come to think of it. I couldn't tell you what the last one was, but curious to see how this one turns out. The last ones I had were very nice. I think they were all kind of lower ABV actually, and with this one being at 6%, this is kind of right in the middle. I was very impressed with the kind of the sort of, you know, 4%, 5% ones that I'd had from them in recent times. So going up to 6% should be kind of interesting. But looking forward to trying this one. Hopefully it carries on in the same vein as the other beers that we've had from Brewski in the past, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, let's crack on with this review then. So as always with my videos, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brewski Mikrobryggeri before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brewski Mikrobryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Brewski Mikrobryggeri, as I've told you before, are based in Helsingborg, in the northwest corner of Skåne here in southern Sweden, and the company was founded back in 2014. So the founders of the company are Marcus Hjalmarsson, Johan Britsen, Alfred Olsson and Robin Skoglund, and all of these guys were inspired to get into craft beer and home brewing, having tried the West Coast American craft beers, and then of course it evolved to be the kind of New England hazy side of things. But Marcus is the kind of the main man behind the brewing, from what I understand. He was originally associated with the High Nose brand of beer, which is brewed at the Höganäs Brewery, which is out on the Kullaberg Peninsula to the northwest of Helsingborg once again. And some of those beers are still brewed up there, and this is where the Brewski beers were originally produced. But these days they've now got their own brewery in Helsingborg, which is in the train yards to the south of the central station. But this brewery has a capacity to brew around 100,000 litres of beer per month, and I'm not sure exactly how much they brew each year, come to think of it. I've heard various different things about that, so I think it might go up and down actually. But in 2016 they started their own beer festival, which is called Brewskival. It had over 40 different brewers in the first year, and this has continued to expand year on year. I went there for the first time in 2017, I went there in 2018, and I think I was there in 2019 as well. I'm sure I've been to Brewskival about 3 times. But then it was cancelled, of course, for 2020, and I believe that, for 2021 as well. It's also cancelled, but I will need to look that up. So hopefully in 2022 it goes ahead and I can get back across and have a little look at it once again. But yeah, they also used to open up their brewery once a month and called it Barski, but they now have their own bar in the city, which is called this, of course, and this opened back in 2018. If you go there, you can get some really nice ramen. It's not authentic ramen, it's an American take on ramen, but I have to say it is pretty damn tasty. But these days, they're also brewing some of their beers over in the US at Tampa Bay Brewing Company. Their IPAs and stuff are being brewed there, and they've done several collaborations with this brewery. At the moment, they're looking to open up a bar in Oslo, and Marcus has also started a distribution company up there as well called Brewski, which imports the Swedish craft beers into Norway. And I hope that he starts to do things the other way as well. It would be cool to get a few more Norwegian breweries down here in Sweden, because they're few and far between, to be honest with you. But over the course of 2019, they apparently brewed around 500,000 litres of beer in total, and as of July 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 350 different kinds of beer. So as I say, this is a brewery that I would recommend that you check out if you get the chance. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the history section. That's all I can really tell you about them. If you want to learn a little bit more about the company, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that is it for your history section. Let's get on and actually have a taste of the beer itself. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open up. As you can see, it is once again very, very nice from Brewski. You can see the Shiba Inu just chilling on this one. I do like those little dogs actually. You see them all the time when you go over to Japan. I really enjoy seeing them. Beautiful little dogs. I really wanted to get one the last time I was there, and I found a lovely little female one, but there was issues with the plane ticket and bringing it back across and things like that, so that was a little bit annoying. But yeah, it's just unfortunately how it goes. But yeah, I really wanted to get a little Shiba Inu. I thought it was going to be great. But yeah, as we say, this one is as we said earlier, this one is the Doge IPA. Comes in at 6% ABV, and yeah, straight up New England one. This released as part of the Lokal Småskalig assortiment through Systembolaget for July of 2021. But yeah, lovely can, 330 millilitres. I believe I paid 35, maybe 40 Swedish kroners for this. I'm not 100% sure. Let's say 35. So that's about €3.50 for the can, just a little bit over £3 sterling, I would say, and then somewhere in the region of like $4, $4.25 American, just so that those of you watching across the world have a little bit of a price reference. But yeah, 6% New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA, this one, a style that this brewery are well known and well respected for. But yeah, let's get it out into the glass and see how we get on. Very curious about this. So yeah, the last beer I reviewed from these guys, I believe, was the Pineapple Pie, and I reviewed that back in May, if memory serves me correctly. So yeah, I didn't review anything from these guys over the course of June. I don't know what they released in June, come to think of it, but maybe I just didn't fancy it that much. But I liked this one, I have to say. I thought the name caught my eye, and then I saw the artwork. I was like, yeah, I've got to review that one. And to be honest, when you've had so many beers from one brewery, sometimes that's the thing that you go for. If you see one, oh, I like the name of this, I know this brewery's good, I like the name of this, I like the artwork, then sometimes you're like, yeah, why not? Go for this one over the others. You know, that's it. You know, I know from Brewski you can expect a good Berliner Weisse, you can expect a good IPA. So yeah, you know, I just that's one of the factors that I use to decide what Brewski beers I'm going to drink. Is, do I like the name? Do I like the artwork? And sometimes it's like, yeah, I've not had a style. I've not had that style from them. I've not had that style from them in a while, and that played a role with this one too. But yeah, anyway, as you can see with this beer, before the head disappears as well, you can see this beer poured with about a 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect white head. That is fading away to be a nice kind of thin foamy layer, but you can see there is a slightly thicker foamy ring around the edge of the glass there. But I mean, overall, it looks pretty damn nice, I have to say. It looks kind of as you would expect from a New England IPA, that's for sure. But in terms of colour, this one is a lovely kind of bright yellow. You know, I would describe it as being akin to a mango juice. As you know, if you've watched any of the reviews before, I love comparing New England IPAs to different fruit juices because that's just what their appearance reminds me of. And I would describe this one as being, yeah, nice kind of bright mango juice actually. So yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use, 2, the length of your wort boil. The type of malts determines the magnitude of the colour, and the length of the wort boil makes the sugars caramelise a little bit more, and thus you can get a kind of darker colour within. that particular bracket, if you like. And of course, if you have any adjuncts or do any barrel aging, that's also going to play a role in the colour of your beer too. But those two factors tend to come more into play when we're talking about sour beers, as you'll see from some of the beers in the pie series that these guys do, which are lovely incidentally. I would recommend that you try those. The cake series of imperial stouts are also very good. They're nipple IPAs. I enjoyed those as well, I have to say. Those were nice, although I think I might have got a bad can for the triple nipple. But yeah, regardless, the IPAs from these guys tend to be really good. But yeah, lovely, very bright, rich yellow mango juice colour for this one. And the level of haze in this beer for a 6%er, yeah, it's kind of about what you'd expect. It's kind of middle of the road. And remember, the level of haze in these beers depends on, one, the type of malts that you use, and two, not the type of malts you use. It depends on the amount of wheat that you use and the amount of oats that you use, and the yeast, I guess, can play a role in those as well. And this varies from brewery to brewery, recipe to recipe. Brain went into automatic mode there. It's like, ugh, yes, but yeah, looks pretty good, this one, I have to say, in terms of New England IPAs. But nothing more to really say about the appearance of the beer. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and see how we get on. And I'm just going to say the aroma of this smells absolutely beautiful. So let's go for it with this one. Let's look at the aroma. Ooh, that's very, very nice. There's something very familiar about this as well. I do wonder if it could be a little bit of Victoria's Secret or Galaxy or something in this. It's always nice to play guess the hops with the beers, but these days it's pretty much nigh on impossible with all of the things. There's something that tells me it could be a little bit of Sabro or something as well. Something distinctive about this beer that makes me think Sabro. But yeah, the aroma that comes out of this is very, very nice. So let's just go through it logically, as we always do. So yeah, first impression of this beer is that it's a nice, kind of smooth, but quite well balanced New England IPA. As I've said before, for me there's 6 different avenues you can go when it comes to a New England IPA. So they can be quite wheaty and bitey, they can be oaty and creamy, they can be barley malt leaning and bready, they can be a bit more brown sugary and sweet, they can be rye leaning and grainy, or they can be a little bit more yeasty and farmhousey. So you often get quite a few of these things kind of coming together in these beers, and you certainly get a bit of that in this one. So if you take the aroma in with this, there is a little tiny bit of wheat at the back of the nose with this, but I find this beer to actually be quite smooth and barley malt leaning. It does have a bit of that to it, and there's also a lovely kind of there's a lovely bit of oaty creaminess to this beer as well, which is interesting. So I would describe this one as being just a little touch wheaty, smooth bready backbone to it, and then a bit of oaty creaminess on top. So yeah, to me that's how the malt base goes in this one. You do get a little touch of sweetness out of the beer too. So yeah, good bit of white bread in this one, absolutely. Bit of wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose, as I said. You can smell the oats in this. The oats come across as sort of quite powdery and almost slightly dry, but still quite smooth and almost a little touch creamy in a sense. And as I said, there is a touch of say, that you do get a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy type thing out of the malt base in this beer as well. So absolutely getting some of that. Yeah, you can definitely get a bit of that sort. You do get maybe a wee bit of a biscuity note out of it as well, but yeah, certainly a nice little bit of a kind of butter candy. Yeah, a little bit of a kind of butter candy, and you also get a little bit of that kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of it as well. So I really like how I really do like how that goes together in this beer. The malty base in this one I think is going to be right up my street. I think this is going to be quite a nice, smooth, drinkable New England IPA, and it's very well balanced, as I say, but the barley malt comes out quite a bit for me, and I think it is leaning a bit more towards barley malt, but just the oats are sort of smoothing everything out. So an interesting malt base to this one then. Hoppy side of things, it is quite interesting. There is a wee bit of earthiness in there, and it's quite a smooth earthiness, but there's a lovely kind of quite bright floral aromaticity to this one. I wouldn't describe it as being overly, dank or anything like that, but it's got a lovely little bit of brightness to it, and I feel that the green component in this beer leans a little bit more towards a sort of kind of grassy type thing actually. So yeah, the grassiness has a wee bit of zest on it as well. I would certainly say that this beer does have a wee bit of grassy zestiness, which I can certainly appreciate. And that's the thing, I think the grassy zestiness is the thing that takes the lead in the green component of this beer, and there's nothing wrong with that, absolutely nothing wrong with that. So yeah, aroma wise, this one comes across as very nice in its green component. But again, not super pungent, just, you know, it's actually quite a chilled out beer, this one, in terms of its aroma. But I think that covers the green component. So fruity wise, yeah. So for me, I've got a feeling that this could be like Galaxy and Sabro, if I was guessing, or maybe Victoria's Secret and Sabro, something like that. It's got a little touch of passion fruit to it, but not a lot. I get quite a bit of a juicy mango and apricot-y quality out of this beer. There's certainly a wee bit of pineapple in there as well, and it's that kind of pineapple presence that's making me think Galaxy. But the thing is, if it was Galaxy, I think Galaxy, the passion fruit would be a little bit stronger, so it could be Victoria's Secret. I'd be more tempted to say it's Victoria's Secret in this one than I would be Galaxy, because Galaxy's just it's got a bit more of a kick to it, I would say. But yeah, certainly a nice little touch of passion fruit in there, big juicy mangoes for me, a bit of kind of slightly drier apricot underneath that, and a good wee bit of pineapple. But I do get there's something telling me that in this beer there's a bit of Sabro. I think there might well be a bit of Sabro in this, because it's got a wee bit of that almost kind of coconutty vibe to the nose. And there's just a wee bit of a juicy kind of tangerine element to this one as well. And Sabro, you know, I don't know if I've had too many Swedish beers with Sabro in them, to be quite honest with you. It's a very popular hop in England. I've had quite a few English beers with Sabro in them, and I've had a couple from Overtone back home in Glasgow as well, or back home in Scotland, I should say. I'm not from Glasgow, but yeah, the aroma that comes out of this one, I think, is very, very nice. So yeah, I think the fruity side of this one, yeah, soft, tangerine, oranges as you get from Sabro, a wee bit of coconut underneath it, and you've got pineapple, mango, apricot, and a little bit of passion fruit. So yeah, I like how it goes together, this one. Take a bit of time to appreciate that aroma. This one's a very smooth, and it's got a lovely kind of just relaxed vibe about it, this beer. So yeah, curious about this for sure. So let's get stuck into this one then and see how we go. So this one is the Doga IPA, coming in at 6% ABV, a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Brewski Mikrobryggeri in Helsingborg, here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. I don't know how many of these I don't know how many examples of this style I've had from Brewski, but they do these beers very, very well in my experience. But let's get stuck into this one. Slanja, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that is pretty nice actually. It's a lot wet. It's actually quite a bit wetter in the mouthfeel than I thought it was going to be. But I think that is pretty nice. Yeah, it's another solid one from these guys. I mean, as I say, the ones that I'd had from this brewery, one of my favourite beers that I ever had from these guys, there was two. There was Conan Double IPA, and there was Little Big Hoppy, and those were just, ridiculously good. Obviously your palate changes over time, the style is developed and so on and so forth, but those are still two of the most striking beers that I ever had from Brewski. And in recent times, as I said, I've been more impressed with the lower ABV beers, because the lower ones that they have, that they do at Brewski, they've got a wee bit more bite to them. And this beer kind of, I think, tries to strike a balance between that. You certainly get a wee bit more bite out of this, but it's very, very smooth in a sense too. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer as well is really nice. But this one is, I find this to be quite a wet IPA, but at the same time, as you go further into the aftertaste, it sort of smoothens out and almost dries out a wee bit. So yeah, this one is really interesting for sure. Yeah, so I mean, where do we start with this one, eh? So let's break this down for you then. So straight away, across the middle and the back third of your palate, you get a lovely bit of smoothness to this. You can feel a lovely kind of smooth, slightly thicker, white bready character with this one. And as I say, you get all the other layers kind of sitting on top of that, but the backbone of this one is a smooth, and it does thicken up a bit. You do get quite a thick, kind of fluffy white bready note there in this one. If you go to either end of that middle third of your palate, you get a wee bit of a kind of more intense, grainy, bread crusty quality to the beer as well, which I can appreciate. But on top of that fluffy white bready layer there, you can feel a little bit of the wheat. You can feel the wheat just sort of smoothing out the top of the bready layer. Then on top of that you start to get the oats. And the oats actually do dry out. They do give this beer a little bit of a dryness. It comes across as a sort of powdery, oaty character. So if you go right down the middle of your tongue in that middle third of your palate, you can feel the oats are thick and a little bit more creamy in a sense. But as you move out towards the edges of your palate there, you can certainly feel them getting a wee bit kind of drier in a sense. So that's really interesting with this beer. The oaty character in this one, I think, gives you something a wee bit different. But we have had, maybe with the lower ABV beers, as I say, we've had a little bit of this kind of thing from them before. Where the oat content is a bit lower, but this one is kind of interesting in that sense for sure. But yeah, the smoothness out of this, I think, is very, very nice too. But yeah, on top of that oaty layer, as I say, the oaty layer is thick in the middle, and then it sort of thins out a little bit as you push towards the edge of the tongue. But in the middle, in the very middle of your palate, you can feel there's a little circle there, and that's where you get the kind of brown sugary elements out of this beer. So you can feel that the base of it is that kind of butter candy, Werther's Original type flavour that I often talk about. And right in the centre, you do get a wee touch of a straight up caramel to this one. Those, of course, that's the alcohol flavour coming out of the beer, of course. You always get that, but there could be a wee bit of a more kind of brown sugary orientated malt in this beer. But going by the colour of it, I would doubt that, to be honest with you, because this, it's a bright yellow. Usually, if you've got a bit more of a brown sugary malt, you'll get a wee bit more of a kind of almost peachy colour out of your New England IPAs. So I doubt that with this one. I think it is just the straight up boozy elements to the beer. But as you move further out from that dead centre of your palate towards the extremities of the middle third of your palate, you do certainly get a wee bit more of a kind of biscuity note out of this one. So, but a little bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuit sort of thing. I'm certainly getting a wee bit of that in this beer. But yeah, interesting for sure. Interesting for sure. But yeah, the fruity side of this one, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah, it does work out really, really well. Malty base on this is nicely done once again. As I say, I think this kind of forms a bridge between the lighter IPAs that they've had recently, which I think have been really good, and the kind of the higher ones. I think it's trying to find a good middle ground, which sort of makes sense when you consider what this beer actually is fundamentally. But yeah, let's focus on the other parts of the palate then. So border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you feel a little bit of a bready build up once again, and a wee bit of a grainy bread crust in there. Backbone of that, the back third of your palate becomes a little bit more kind of grainy as you go further back. You can certainly feel it getting a little bit more kind of grainy, and the white bread sits on top of that. But on top of all of that, you can feel like a slightly taller, yeasty kind of component to the beer as well, which is interesting. So the flavour when you start at the back of the palate is certainly taller, and you can feel it just kind of condensing down a little bit, and as you go into the middle third of your palate, it squashes together a little bit more, which I can really appreciate as well. So the way that goes together is very, very nice. Yeah, fruity side of this is pretty awesome, I have to say. But on the as we say, on the brain's not working now. On the malty side of things, as I say, the malty and yeasty side of things, it goes together really quite nicely, this one. It's interesting. But let's focus on the hoppy component of the beer. So back corners of the palate, then you certainly do get a wee bit of earthiness out of this one. As you move further forward on the sides of the palate, it does have a wee bit of herbal quality, but not too much. But it quite quickly becomes floral and aromatic, and I do actually get a wee bit of dankness out of this one as you push further forward. And remember, these New England IPAs rely a little bit more on early edition hops, so I do wonder if there's a wee bit of Columbus in this, because there's just something, it has a wee bit of spiciness to it, or a wee bit of dankness. So there's just something telling me, it's just the experience that's telling me that it could be a bit of Columbus that's in this one. But remember, quite any of these high alpha acid hops are capable, if you use them in the early edition stage, they're all capable of giving you this big, spicy, dank green component. You can get this from most big hops. So yeah, but something tells me there might be a wee bit of Columbus in here, just from this. There's a slight spiciness as you reach the front corners of the palate. Round the front curve of the tongue, though, the beer is distinctly more kind of light and grassy. And as I say, you do get a wee bit more of a kind of lighter, kind of grassy, zesty component around the front edge of the tongue. So I can certainly appreciate that. I like how that this beer is, the green component is a bit more dank than it comes across as being in the aroma, that is for sure. But let's focus on the fruity side of the beer then. So front third of your palate, border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Once again, you can feel a little bit of a bready build up there, which I think is very, very nice. So you can feel that building up. And then the base of the front third of your palate is, you certainly get a wee bit more of a kind of white bready note to this one and a wee bit of bread crust. But sitting on top of that, you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. And this one is actually quite similar to what you pick up in the aroma, I would say. So at the back of that front third of your palate, you'll get a bit of a darker passion fruit in there. As you move further forward, it becomes a little bit more oily and kind of mango-like. One or two wee apricot notes in there, but I'd say those are very minimal. They're a bit more prominent in the aroma than they were before. And I do get a wee bit of pineapple as well. You can feel the I think the pineapple comes out a bit more into the aftertaste with this one. These are all kind of typical notes though, but I think the mango is probably the most pungent of the tropical fruits in this. The apricot is an undertone, the pineapple is a bit of an aftertaste, but the passion fruit is slightly stronger as well compared to the aroma. The orangey notes out of this beer are a bit different as well. I'm kind of doubting myself about what I said with Sabro, to be quite honest. There is certainly a lovely juicy note to this one. This beer does have a wee bit of earthiness as well, so it could be just mosaic. But at the same time, I'm wondering about that there's definitely a kind of orangey, tangerine kind of component to this one. It's got a wee bit more zest to it as well. So the zest is making me think that it could be Sabro, and into the aftertaste you do get a wee tiny bit of coconut out of it, and that's the distinctive feature of it. But you know, so I'm leaning towards saying it's Sabro, but I'm doubting myself a little bit and thinking it's maybe mosaic because of the earthiness actually and the oiliness, because I don't remember Sabro being quite as oily as the orangey character is in this one. So I don't know, I'm not 100% sure, and I don't remember mosaic being as zesty as the oranges are in this one. So it's interesting. I think I've got a feeling this beer is something along the lines of, I think it might just be two hops that are in this. I think it could be something like Victoria's Secret, and it could be a bit of Victoria's Secret and a bit of Sabro or something like that. I think that's maybe what it is. Or it could be, you know, a bit of Simcoe, a bit of Victoria's Secret and something. I think there's two, I've got a feeling there could be two tropical hops in this one and then one slightly more citrusy leaning hop. I think that's probably what they've gone for with this one. I do wish Brewski would tell you what hops were in these beers, because I think it's always a good learning process, and I've no idea what hops these guys kind of like to use in a sense, but whatever it is that they do, they always do it pretty well. They always find a good balance between the citrusy notes and the kind of tropical notes, in my opinion. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the tasting section. This is just a very nice, well balanced and kind of easy drinking New England IPA for me, and definitely smooth. Finds a good balance between their lighter, bitier ones that I've had recently and the slightly stronger, more kind of thicker, high-bodied ones, if you like. But it works. It certainly works. But to round off this review with the mouthfeel, and we've kind of gone into that already. You know, for me, this beer is quite mid-bodied, the carbonation smooth. I do find this one a little bit wetter and maybe potentially a little bit slicker than some of the other ones we've had before. In terms of bitterness, I think this one is a fairly standard kind of, you know, sort of 30, maybe 40 IBUs. This one does feel a little bit more bitter, so I'd be tempted to say 40. I do suspect, as I say, Columbus is a bittering hop in this, and that really lingers into the aftertaste. So I am quite tempted to stick with that statement about Columbus, to be honest with you. So I think this one's a little bit stronger in its bitterness, maybe 40 IBUs, come to think of it. So yeah, a little bit more bitter than some of the other ones we've had from memory, but as I say, it's been a while. Take my IBU counts with a pinch of salt. This is my weakest point of beer reviewing, remember. But the malt base, as I say, is lovely and smooth. There's a slight degree of sweetness to it. Then the fruity character in this one is quite wet and quite kind of tropical and juicy at the same time, but you get a wee bit more of a kind of oily, zesty character out of this beer as well. But yeah, the way everything kind of pieces together in this one, I think, is very nice. It's a solid beer. Difficult to say whether this one would be one of my favourites from Brewski, because I've had quite a few of this style from them, and they are, you know, solid in this style, of course. But it's worth, you know, it's worth having a go at this one. If you like Brewski, then this is worth a go, absolutely. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. Nice, just a really nicely done New England IPA from it, and that's what we've come to expect, of course. But yeah, we can leave it at that for this review. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. You know, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brewski Mikrobryggeri as well. But check out Brewski's social media, check out my social media, and we will return to these guys at some point fairly soon, I'm sure. Thank you again for watching. This one was the Doga New England Hazy IPA, coming in at 6% ABV from Brewski Mikrobryggeri in Helsingborg here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Slange, skull, cheers, and see you guys in the next review.